Okay, so another way is to visualize these things is with what's called a correlogram or a pair plot. This can mean a number of things, and we're just going to look at one aspect of them. So, actually, if we go back 2 lectures, we already know about the correlations between these variables. We already did this in topic 4. So, in example 12, we calculated the correlations and drew a heat map, and we saw that the only strong correlation was price versus cost. But it's helpful sometimes to visualize those correlations. Particularly, we're going to use this later on in the lecture. So, previously, when we calculated correlations, when we did it between time series, we just picked pairs and just drew them one after the other, each pair one after the other. But in a correlogram, we can arrange the correlations, the scatter plots that show correlations. We can arrange them to match the columns and rows in the heat map. So if you imagine each square here, obviously we can't do this if there's too many squares, but we've got a grid of 25 by 25 here. Sorry, 5 by 5, which is 25 squares. We could match each one of these squares with a little scatter plot in a pair plot. And for the diagonal, okay, there's no point doing a scatter plot of showing the correlation of a variable with itself. So we could put something else down the diagonal, and what we could do is do a histogram of the distribution of that variable. Okay, that seems like a lot, but actually, that's what it looks like. The type of visualization is known as a correlogram or a pair plot. And so what are we seeing? In the top corner, that's a histogram of the price, the different values of price. That's a histogram of the different values of profit. I don't know if you can see that, but that's price, profit. I'm not sure what that is. That must be sales, marketing, and cost. So it's got pushed out by the large numbers there. So that's the sales, that's the marketing, that's the cost, and these are histograms. Remember, so that's telling us that there's most of the products are clustered down here. In terms of sales, they have very low. Most of the products have very low sales, but there's just a few up here which are the high volume ones. Okay, that's a marketing cost, and that's a histogram of the costs. And then we can look at correlations using the scatter plots, and you can see the strong correlations in the corner there, the cost and price. These 2 scatter plots should match each other, although they'll be inverted. Mirrored. So that this one is cost versus price, and this is price versus cost in the corner. You can see strong correlations there. You can see that none of the other scatter plots have strong correlations. There's no strong straight lines. So this kind of correlogram is a really useful way of displaying a lot of information all at once. It takes a little while to get to understand what it's telling us, but you can focus on getting strong straight lines showing strong correlations. And as it turns out, the code for doing a correlogram is really easy because we can cheat and we can use Seaborn to do it. So cheat is not cheating. Seaborn is designed exactly for this kind of thing, because Seaborn we met it was it last week or the week before? It's a high level library for doing high level visualizations, and this is just one such high level visualization. In Seaborn, it's called a pair plot because we're plotting pairs. On all every one of these plots is a pair. Okay, and we can do that. Whole chart was just created essentially once we've read in the data and set up that data frame. We can just visualize it using the Seaborn pair plot and a couple of extra features that we can control the height of each plot, and that's the size of the figure. So that if you change that value, you'll get a different size figure or different size figures inside it, and then the S there controls the S20 controls the size of the dots. So I've set them quite big so that they're visible. If you leave that as a default, they're really a bit too tiny to see. Okay, so that's really useful, and that's what the chart shows. I say useful. It takes one line of code to do, essentially. That's what the chart shows, and we can immediately see the strong correlation between price and cost, which comes out from that heat map. And sometimes it's handy to visualize that in a scatter plot like this. It gives a better sense of it than the heat map. Right, I'm going to finish that video there, and then we'll look at bubble plots for the rest of the lecture.